Today, Alex and Steve are both in the boathouse. The first step is to get all these short beams installed. And remember when we were hauling these huge oak stumps out of the ground?
You look great. I'm good.
Well, today we get to see the finished product.
I just put the first coat of varnish on all the short beams and the lodging knees that I just finished up. So we get 2 lodging knees up here, and then we get 2 aft over there that I just finished working up and that we're going to install tomorrow once I get the final coat of varnish on tonight. I am really excited to put in these short beams. So tomorrow they should all be varnished and they're looking fantastic. So we're gonna go in and right now what I'm gonna do is make a bunch of rivets ahead of time that are gonna be long enough to install the knees right in here and in the aft. And then I'm gonna get all the screws ready to put in the ends of the short beams, pull out a bunch of the bolts that are gonna tie them to the shelf, get the drill bits ready. With that said, I really hope that you are all enjoying the videos. We really love putting them out for everybody. It's been really great to be doing this project and seeing the support and the community that has come up through all this. And we really, really appreciate everybody, especially coming into a time like this with all the holidays coming up. We just wanted to let you all know that we really appreciate you and we hope that you're all doing well.
So for the last week, I've basically just been working on yard work. We've been putting it off for a really, really long time. There's actually a pile of debris in the driveway from when we did the stumps, and that was a year ago now, almost. Man, time flies. But we just haven't had a chance to go through and get all that cleaned up. So spent like the last week just working on that. Aaron, who you might remember, he was helping me a bunch this summer. He came by and was looking for some work, so we've been throwing a few bucks his way. And he's been helping us out a couple days a week with getting the firewood done. And remember, there was a huge pile of scrap lumber over here from cutting out of the deck beams. He gave me a hand. We got all that cut up. It's piled up behind the house for firewood now. And we just got a little bit of yard work over here left to do, a couple leaf piles to pick up. But that's all just about done. Feels really good to get all of that kind of cleaned up and off my plate. And then Aaron is also going to work on de-sawdusting the boathouse a bit. It's definitely time. So he's going to kind of start picking away at that and see if we can get the sawdust in there down to a little more of a manageable level. But today, Alex and I are going to be installing the short beams along the house and the lodging knees in there. So I'm looking forward to seeing those go in. He's been really busting hump getting all of those cut and fit and sealed and varnished, and they're ready for the install. So I'm going to get back into the boathouse this week with Alex and work with him and bop back and forth a little bit with Aaron and give him a hand just kind of wrapping up the last little bit of yard work stuff. And then we're going to be back to the regularly scheduled programming for a while. So Alex and I will be both in the boathouse and both working and looking forward to getting to it. It's been a nice little break just to get away for a while and have a little change of pace. And I'm anxious to get back there with Alex and get back to it. So let's do it. Shall we see how we did? I live here now. So I'm gonna need you to get things for me.
You need me to frame you out there?
To frame me out, yeah, this is my new.
We're gonna cock your hips. You have everything you need?
I'm just gonna need a pair of washers.
Alright, what do you want to do first?
Your dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. Let's do the far one because it's the most uncomfortable.
Okay. You ready?
Ready.
So we're here up at the Samson post, and the Samson post is going to be like a really main anchor point on the bow of the boat. So when you tie off to an anchor or mooring, tied off to docks, or if you were to get a tow, that's what it would come off of. So we want this to be really nice and solid. The other thing that's going on up here is the bowsprit is going to come in and register against the Samson post as well, and that's going to lock in. So we want to make sure that that anchor point for the bowsprit, where it's being compressed and pushed back by that stay and being tied off to the Samson post, that this is all really nice and solid. It's also going to kind of be the end of the visible area in the forepeak. So we want kind of from here aft to look nice, because we're going to be staring at it. On the other side of this forward, it needs to be halfway decent, but we're not going for a gorgeous finish over there, just because you're not really going to see it. So I got this one on the port side all fit. Very happy with it. It looks great. I can't wait to sand these and varnish them. So now I'm working on the starboard side. And these are cut out of the cardboard pattern that fit in here fairly well, and I use the same pattern for both port and starboard. So the pattern was made on the port side, and the starboard here, it's just off a tiny little bit. Close enough that the same pattern is fine. So I've been looking at it here and figuring out how I want to make my moves and which moves I want to make first. You can't really, at least I haven't been able to go around and just kind of pull all the points and have it move one time in one direction and get it to set right in there. What I've had the best luck with doing this kind of woodworking is to kind of do the rough stuff and get it fairly close, and then figure out what the last couple moves you're going to make are. So the first thing I want to do, because all the gaps are, they're not too far off from each other, is I want to close this here up. So I'm going to take an inch off of all along the back side and put angles on all of these 90-degree cuts and down this whole face here. And then that should let this sit in there much, much closer. And then we'll figure out where we want to go from there. The first thing will probably be to get it to come up against the shelf here and fit this kind of tightly, and then we can kind of work it in. And that's why this is all cut so big right now, is that, we can do a bunch of moves and kind of settle this into place, and then do the final cuts and the shapes later. And that'll let us kind of tip it in and out a little bit, and up and down, and whatever we got to do, and not cause any issues. Yeah, so let's go hack off a bunch of material. Well, my first 2 days back in the shop have been busy ones. So I helped Alix with getting the short beams installed and riveting all the lodging knees. He's been working on getting those fared out. And I've been here in the stem. I'm just going to slowly work my way aft. So I roughed out the deck beams at the lodging knees, and yesterday I worked on fitting these hanging knees here. These are the first of the rootstock, the white oak rootstock that we dug up. And they're looking nice, if you ask me. So the port one here is all fit, and I've got just another fit or two to do on the starboard one there. I worked on it yesterday afternoon, and on one of the last fits, I cut the curve out of it because we were getting really close, and now it's just smaller and lighter to deal with. So that's fitting really well, and I've got, like I said, just another fit or two, close up a couple little gaps. And then I'm going to be ready to drill for fasteners, then do the final sanding and shaping and chamfering of the edges. So I'm hoping by the end of today to have these guys with a coat of sealer on them, which should be attainable. I'm going to put one carriage bolt down here, another carriage bolt here. That'll attach it pretty solidly to the frames. And then I'm going to put 2 carriage bolts up here through the deck beam. So this one will go through the deck beam and through the lodging knee. This one will go just through the deck beam, and I'll counterbore the carriage bolt head on this side so that the lodging knee will cover it up. And that'll all lock that down really well. Well, I judged these two right, so let's go try the port side and see if I can judge those right as well. It's a little finicky. As we're doing the deck structure here, I am actually incredibly thankful that we ran out of dry planking stock. I was really bummed when we had to stop. Aaron and I had just kind of gotten into a good groove and we were making good progress. And then we ran out of, we had the issues with cedar, and then we ran out of kind of enough good dry oak, and we've been waiting for it to dry. But a plus side of that is that, one, we've had plenty of time to fit these knees and stuff and get those bolted in without the planks in the way. But even more than that is we have areas to stand. So if this was all a smooth hull, I wouldn't really be able to stand here very easily. But because these planks are out and these ribbons are in, I can kind of stem across the boat here and be able to adjust my height really nicely and easily, working on the shelf and the rest of the deck structure. And it actually works out really well.
So for the folks that were worried that our breast hook here wasn't strong enough, we got the breast hook, the wings that are bolted to it. The wings are bolted into the frames. They are bolted into the locust shelf. They are bolted into the lodging knees, which are then bolted into the big deck beam, which is bolted to the hanging knee, which is attached to the Samson post. And then the same thing on the other side. So basically from here all the way up to a stem, this is one incredibly rigid triangle in here. And I don't think that you would be able to deform that very easily at all. So none of the connections on a wooden boat are particularly strong. The materials themselves aren't particularly strong. But when you put them all together, you end up with an unbelievably strong structure, which we are well on our way towards.
All right, all right, all right. The oak knees are in, the first of them. Man, it was beautiful. So this is going to kind of frame out the most forward end of the forepeak. And I think I will be all right laying in the forepeak at anchor, looking into this. It's a lovely, lovely sight. All right, well, I'm going to finish up bolting in those deck beams up forward, which is not going to be all that terribly exciting, but we'll get that wrapped up, and then it's time to move aft and work on some more of those oak knees. As we go aft, the shape becomes less and less, so they should be a little bit easier to fit, but they're also going to get bigger. But I'm also going to get better. So it wasn't too bad. Just took a couple days to get these knees and these lodging knees and the deck beams in and done. So if we can keep up that pace, it won't take us too long to wrap up the deck structure and get moved on to other and equally exciting things. Had the neighbor stop by. He comes by every once in a while looking for some offcuts for some home projects and whatnot. And a little while back, he asked me if he knew where I could get an electric motor with a little bit of life in it. Apparently his son is just enamored right now with electric motors, and he was really hoping to give him an electric motor or two that were kind of on the fritz. He's at the age where he just wants to like take things apart and see how they work and figure it out. So he wanted to know if I knew where he could find a couple electric motors for that. And I was like, yes, my junk pile. Because we've gotten a bunch of old machines over the years that have like really old weak motors with them. And instead of trying to tear apart and fix a little 3/4 or 1 horsepower motor, it's just way easier and faster and better for us just to go buy one. They're not that expensive. So he left with a couple electric motors and a broken Sawzall. So that kid is gonna have a great Christmas. I am so supportive of kids growing up being able to tinker and tear things apart and see how they work. I was afforded that luxury as a kid. There was a lot of old broken things on the farm that I was free reign to just kind of tear into, and look what has become. So I'm fully supportive of that. I hope you enjoy the motors. And then the police pulled in, which is not something that ever happens. And the officer just said she got out of the car and said that she heard a rumor that we were building a boat here and wanted to know if she could take a look around and check it out. So she came in and saw, and we had a nice little chat. And that is the first time that a police officer has ever pulled into my yard and wanted to just say hi and
talk. Not that they pull in the yard for any other reason, they don't. So to see the cops pull in, I was kind of like, oh, what's this about? And it was really cool. She just wanted to check things out, and said she drove by all the time and saw the lumber, and then heard a rumor that there was a boat being built. And so that was pretty cool. If you are in law enforcement, I encourage you to go do that. Engage with the community. It's very cool.
Next week, Alix is on the deck, fairing that down so it'll be ready for the decking someday. And Steve works his way aft, making ever larger hanging knees out of the old white oak stumps. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.